light surrounds me. Time for new awakening. It was your love that rescued me. You rescued me.
I lived in a stupid shadow my whole life. It's like I wasn't even there. It's like no one even knew my name. You know, being the brother of the prodigy, the kid wonder, the miracle worker, the great one. You're the brother of Jesus. What's it like to be the brother of the Jesus? It made me sick. I was about 8 years old when we left him in Jerusalem. He was 12. And sure, I noticed that he wasn't with us when we were walking back, going home with Mom and Dad, but I didn't say anything. Why doesn't he suffer? Why doesn't he get in trouble for once? And so it was such a relief to be out of his shadow just for a few days, but obviously Mom and Dad went back and looked for him, and they found him in the temple of all places. And so Mom was yelling at him, of course, saying, you know, why do you have to put me and your father through this all the time? And he said that we shouldn't have worried or even searched because they should have known, quote, that he was in the temple in his father's house, unquote. In his father's house? You know, who does he think he is? He's in God's house, the temple. Mom just stared at him for a while after that. And I remember that Mom never referred to Joseph as his father anymore. I remember that. There was always something different about him. But it wasn't just what he said. It was kind of in the way that he looked at you. Like he knew what was going on in your head and your heart. I remember one time when I was about 10 or 11, and me and my friends found this crippled girl, and we were making fun of her and throwing rocks at her, just laughing it up until our sides hurt. And when I got home, Jesus was just standing there, staring at me. And I knew that he knew. And I was like, what? But he didn't say anything back. He just stood there and stared at me. I knew that he knew, and I felt so bad. It's not like I wanted to apologize just to the girl, but to him, in a way, you know? It was spooky. It was just spooky. And he was strong, you know? Like, nobody messed with him. And you know, I mean, you know how guys are, always sizing up the competition, kind of, you know, seeing if they could take him. And you know, there's like this pecking order kind of thing, and the strongest guy always winds up on the top of the stack. But Jesus was tough as nails. I mean, no one picked on him, no one gave him any guff. He had this quietness about it that really intimidated people. I've never seen anything like that before. He could have been a good carpenter. I mean, all those years of training, working with Dad, Mom was so proud of him. But one day he just left. Like, just left all the sawdust and the 2x4s. And he left to become a revivalist preacher. Can you even imagine? Like, what if Dad had still been alive? He would have just been so disappointed. And is that how you treat your family? You just leave? I mean, Dad was dead, and you know his priority should be to take care of her, and he just leaves in the prime time of his life. I guess he had other priorities. So one time, he comes back to Nazareth with his band of merry men, and we'd all heard about his miracles. And so everyone's, you know, expecting a lot, but he doesn't really even do anything. He heals a few sick people here and there, and that's about it. We're all confused. He says, it's your lack of faith. It's astonishing. And I'm just like, you know, well, hey buddy, it's you know, what's astonishing is your Messiah complex. It's not our fault that you can't do miracles, it's your own fault. I mean, put your magic where your mouth is. But I didn't say anything. It was just the way he looked at me. Like, there was just something so unsettlingly sad. And then he left. And the stories about his miracles got even crazier. The religious leaders wanted to kill him. The regular people are trying to make him king. And we all started to wonder, where was this all going? What did it all mean? And so then he starts in with this whole, like, miracle thing. I mean, you know, people coming up to me, you know, things are just getting bad. You know, like, oh, so you're James, like, you know, the brother of Jesus? Like the prophet and that healer? Now, did he ever do any of those miracles when you were at home? You know, like when you were growing up? Huh? The answer is no. No, he didn't do anything. Not even when he could have. I mean, not even when Dad got sick. Not even when Dad died. Nothing. Just no miracles. Just tears like the rest of us. All I wanted was some proof, you know? I mean, he was making some pretty wild claims. You know, people were starting to follow him and to pray to him and to worship him. And that was the scary thing, was people were worshiping and praying to my brother. So, you know, things started to spin pretty quickly out of control after that. You know, the arrest and the trial, the beatings. I was there for that. I watched it. I didn't look away. After all, he was my brother. I watched my brother die on a cross. And I heard all the things that people were saying about him. And I just wanted to say, like, hey, shut up, that's my brother up there. That's my brother. You can't say things like that about him. But I didn't say anything because I was afraid. He did this whole deal on the cross, like with John, who was one of his friends, and my mother. And he looked at him and said, "This is your mom." And then he looked at my mom and said, "This is your son." And why didn't he say that to me? I mean, I was his brother, and I was her son. It's because all my life I'd been ashamed of him. All those times I'd judged him. Those thoughts cut through me, A couple of his friends took his body down from the cross later that day, and Mom cried a lot. And they put him away in a tomb. And as wild as his claims might have been, he was still my brother, and it was just an awful thing to watch. Mary Magdalene comes running up to us into town and is saying something, he's alive again. And I saw him myself. I was in the garden, and at first I thought he was the groundskeeper, but he called me by name, and he's talking about saying, go tell, my brothers about how he's returning to my Father and to your Father, and to my God and to your God. To my Father? To my God? I started to think, all of a sudden, everything that I thought about him, I had to sit down. Could it be that he was really alive again? And that he was telling the truth all along? I just heard this voice just say, yes. And it was his voice. He says, "Yes, James. Yes, my brother, it is true." Suddenly, I felt like I'd woken up from a long sleep. I started to realize that I knew who he was, and I started to know who I was. Like, he'd been trying to tell me, for all these years, and I just ignored him and judged him. And I never really grasped it. As who am I? That's a good question. I'm James. I'm the brother of Jesus.